Today we are going to discuss about butter. We have already go through the cream, classification of cream, different legal standard of cream, standardization of cream, neutralization of cream. We have already gone through different aspect of cream. Now today we are going to discuss about the butter. You know that butter is actually manufactured from cream, and this is actually popular. This is also one of the Western dairy product. Our traditional dairy product is makhan. So makhan and butter both are different things. So butter is a Western dairy product, but makhan is our traditional dairy product. Traditional fat is dairy product, and this is butter is traditional, not traditional dairy product, but here butter is Western fat is dairy product. So today we are going to the definition aspect and different legal standards of butter. So first of all, we define the butter, how it is defined. So one of the apex agency, which is actually FSSI, which defined the butters. Butter means the fatty product which is derived from milk, exclusively from cow or buffalo milk, or both of it, principally in the form of water in oil type of an emulsion. The product may be or without added with common salt and starter culture of harmless lactic acid bacteria or flavor producing bacteria. So here you can observe here that the butter itself may or may not contain common salt or starter culture. There are so many culture which is actually advocated for use in butter. So later on we are actually discussing the ripening of cream. Ripening of cream is actually done by using a starter culture in order to get the more diacetyl compound in the flavor. So the diacetyl compound is more responsible for the flavor. So table butter, what is table butter? Table butter shall be obtained from pasteurized milk or other milk product which have undergone adequate heat treatment to ensure microbial safety. Or our butter must be free from any animal fat, vegetable fat, mineral oil or added flavor. So butter should be only fatty product which is derived from the cow or buffalo or mixture of both, but it must not contain any animal body fat, vegetable oils and fat, mineral oils and added flavors. Generally most of the times we are observing in the newspaper that some butter is actually treated with vegetable fat or animal fat or mineral oil. So that is actually not good for not only actually nutritive point of view, it is not beneficial, not harmful, but also this is actually not meet the requirement which is actually required to do the product become a butter. So if butter is not containing animal fat or vegetable fat, mineral oils, then we cannot say that one as a butter. Butter means the product which is containing at least 80% of milk fat, not any other fat. So here we can focusing that our butter should be free from animal body fat, vegetable fat, mineral oils and added flavors. So there are so many artificial flavor which is also added, which is also providing the almost same flavor which is actually present in the natural butter. So that is not actually recommended. So it should be pleasant taste and flavor free from off flavor and acidity. Generally we observe that when we keep the butter under room condition for a long time, for a certain period of time, so we can observe that the butter may get spoils or one of the major defect of fat-rich dairy product that is also it comes into the butter is rancidity. So rancidity leads to the different off flavor also. So our butter should be free from any off flavor, and it is actually as per the FSI regulation also. So it may contain permitted food additives. Certainly some additives is actually added, but with the guideline what suggested in the FSSI. So similarly, it shall contain to the microbial regulation requirement of the regulation. Suppose similarly we can say here that what is the difference between the butter and desi butter. You can say, so butter, table butter, that means butter which is western dairy product. Desi or cooking butter means Indian fat-rich dairy product. Another difference is that table butter contains 60% moisture, whereas in desi butter the moisture content is almost more than 60%. Similarly, in case of table butter, the milk fat is not less than 80%, not less than 80% milk fat. Whereas in case of cooking butter or desi butter, that is called also makhan, they are containing minimum 76% fat. So with respect to the milk fat, both are actually different. Similarly, table butter can contain 1.5% total solid not fat. That means solid not fat, that the content should not should maximum 1.5%. Similarly, in case of cooking butter, there is no addition of milk solid not fat, MSNF, and common salt. So in generally you observe in a village also you are getting makhan. So the makhan containing not any milk solid not fat and also not any salt. But in case of table butter, the common salt generally NaCl actually 3% we can add maximum 3% of the total weight of the butter. So this point of view, FSSI actually make a standard, fix a standard between the table butter and the desi butter. So these are the aspect. Another one is that table butter is table butter generally actually the method which is prepared by modern machineries, but the desi butter is actually made by the traditional method, which is actually done by millions of by the various even in Chandragupta Kal, also in Buddhism, they all are actually preparing makhans, and makhan are actually generally used for the ghee making by our ancestors. जो हमारे पूर्वज थे उनके द्वारा मक्खन का मुख्य रूप से यूज हमारा घी बनाने में किया जाता था. इसी तरह से अगर हम बात करें BIS स्टैंडर्ड की, तो BIS स्टैंडर्ड मींस ब्यूरो ऑफ इंडियन स्टैंडर्ड्स. So they have also given some specification for the pasteurized butter. So they are also giving the same standard for the table butter and white butter. So now we are actually discussing what is the difference between both the product, because both are fat-rich dairy product. One comes under the category of Western fat-rich dairy product. Another one comes into the category of the traditional Indian fat-rich dairy product. So when we see with respect to table butter, it has been noticed that the minimum fat percent in table butter should be not less than 80%. Whereas in case of white butter, the minimum fat content is generally recommended by BIS is 82%. Similarly, the moisture content in both table butter and white butter remain the same, that is the 16% when we see the BIS standards. Whereas in case of FSSI, there is no regulation in case of desi butter for the moisture, but in table butter, the moisture content is not more than 16%. Similarly, the acidity level, acidity is generally measured in terms of lactic acid, and the acidity of the table butter is generally found in terms of lactic acid is 0.15, whereas in case of white butter, the acidity in terms of lactic acid is 0.06%. Similarly, the curd present by mass, in case of table butter, the curd content is 1% or another one in white butter, whereas in white butter that curd content is more than the table butter, that is 1.5%. Similarly, the common salt is generally not added in white butter, but in case of table butter, the common salt content should not be more than 2.5%. Similarly, when we see the microbial quality of the butter, so as per the BIS standard, the coliform count per ml of butter should not be more than 5. That means when we measuring the coliform content by the standard methods, then the coliform count should be not more than 5. Similarly, the yeast and mold count, that is the one of the major, most of the defects actually comes into the butter by the yeast and mold. So if the total yeast and mold count per ml should not be more than 20 in case of table butter and also in the case of the white butter. So with respect to microbial quality, the coliform content and total yeast and mold count remain the same in the table butter and white butter. So these are the aspects we have to discuss with respect to the BIS standard and FSSAI standards. Now comes into the permitted food additives in butter as per the food safety standard regulation. So there are different additives. You have already gone through the different names. So these are the quantity which are actually permitted by the FSSR, particularly in case of butter. So you already know the names. Curcumin is added up to maximum 100 ppm. Beta carotene, पता है तुमको कहां से आता है beta carotene? Beta carotene का content not more than 100 ppm. उसी तरह से carotene नेचुरल एक्सट्रैक्ट में भी 100 ppm से ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. उसी तरह से annatto extract, either it will be extracted in Vixin or non-Vixin basis in the ratio of 50-50. The quantity of annatto extract should not be more than 20 ppm. Similarly, beta, apo alpha carotenol, that should be not more than 35 ppm. Similarly, methyl ester of beta, apo alpha carotenoic acid, not more than 35 ppm. Similarly, sodium and calcium hydroxide, that is actually added to the cream, so that we can actually keep the butter for the longer duration. Suppose when we prepare the cream from the SGIDT cream, then I have already told you, so there you have to go through the two-stage neutralizations. So that generally calcium and sodium hydroxide is generally added to minimize, to control the acidity in such a level so that we can keep the butter for a longer duration. But the maximum limit of the addition of calcium or sodium hydroxide is 2000 ppm only. Similarly, when we see the microbial requirement of the pasteurized butter, so here we have already mentioned all the specification whatever laid down by the FSSAI. So let us briefly discuss this one. So the total plate count in butter should be not more than 10,000 per gram. Similarly, these are the different procedures. M denotes the standard sampling procedure as given by the FSSAI. Similarly, yeast and mold count, they may be in the range of 20 per gram, and similarly Listeria monocytogenes. So you already know that listeriosis, one of the foodborne disease, is actually created or generated by the Listeria monocytogenes. That is very harmful pathogens. So it must be absent in the case of butter. Similarly, the coliform count, we have already discussed that not more than 10 per gram in the case of butter. So these are the similarly E. coli must be absent in इसी तरह salmonella. Salmonella क्या करता है? They are creating typhoid, paratyphoid, salmonellosis. They are actually disease which is foodborne disease which is actually spread through salmonella. Salmonella तुम जो अंडा है, अंडा में भी अंडा जो कच्चा अंडा है, there may be also chances of spread of salmonellosis. That is why generally we are recommending that that the egg should be properly cooked. That means boiled or fried before consumption, so that the coliform the salmonella can be destroyed by this means. So these are the aspects which is actually fixed by the FSSI so far as microbial quality of pasteurized butter is concerned. Similarly, we can also go through the nutritional aspect of the butters. So here we can see that when you take butter also either from Amul or from Sudha or any other brand, you get a different constituents with their nutritive value in the package on its packaging materials. So so far as energy is concerned, the butter is providing 744 kilocalorie per 100 gram. Similarly, we can get fat 82% from the 100 gram butter. Similarly, the saturated fat content generally we can observe per 100 gram is 52.1. Other monosaturated fatty acid, unsaturated acid, trans fatty acids, these are actually present in your butter. So polyunsaturated acid, saturated or mono unsaturated fatty acid is actually very much having a very health benefits. So we can get this nutritive value from consuming the butter. Similarly, very less amount of protein, that is 0.6 gram, is only present. The carbohydrate is also very much less in the case of butter. But the other things, similarly, fat soluble vitamin A, D, E, K are present in the butter. But the water soluble vitamins like riboflavin, thiamine, niacin, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, they are found in trace or very little trace amounts. And when we see the microbial, when we see the other minerals and vitamins per 100 gram of butter, we can observe here that we are getting most of the nutritive, most of the vitamins and minerals which is also present, somewhat present in the butter. So suppose carotene 608 microgram, vitamin D 0.9, vitamin E 1.85 milligram, sodium 606. It depends upon addition of salt. So iron very trace, copper 0.01%, zinc 0.1, selenium trace में, magnesium trace में, आयोडीन 38 ग्राम माइक्रोग्राम पाया जाता है. तो इस तरह से these are the different type of minerals and vitamins are actually available in per 100 gram of the butter. So these aspects we have to discuss. Now come into the different fatty acid composition of the butters. So we already know that fat is actually fat generally observed in saturated fatty acid, monounsaturated fatty acid, polyunsaturated fatty acid, and saturated fatty acid. Unsaturated fatty acid तुमको और पता है already, they have low melting and boiling points. और monounsaturated fatty acid जो, और इसके अलावा जो तुम fatty acid जितने पढ़े हो, कैप्रोइक क्या कहता है, कैप्रिक एसिड, कैप्रोइक एसिड, स्टीरिक एसिड, पाल्मेटिक एसिड, है ना, ब्यूटारिक एसिड. शुरू में सबसे लोअर चेन क्या होता है, ब्यूटारिक एसिड. तो लॉरिक एसिड जितना है, ये दीज आर द प्रोफाइल्स व्हिच मेक्स द फैट. तो उसी तरह से जो हमारा बटर का जो फैटी एसिड कंपोजिशन है, दे आर कंटेनिंग दिस डिफरेंट माने फैट. Here one thing I want to discuss, that one of the two essential fatty acid, I am talking about essential fatty acid, that is only found in butter and ghee. So these what are the these essential fatty acid? Linoleic acid and linoleic acids. These two are makes the ghee or butter more nutritive in comparison to the other fat like vegetable fat, animal fat. So these are the beauty of ghee or butter, that these essential fatty acids remain present in your butter and ghee, which is very much, science has already proved that these one are very useful for health point of view, or these are also known as essential fatty acids. So in case of here we can say that the composition of such unsaturated fatty acid, monounsaturated fatty acid, polyunsaturated fatty acid or saturated fatty acid, this may vary depending upon the type of milk. Suppose buffalo milk से अगर तुमने बटर बनाया है तो definitely they are containing relatively higher concentration of saturated fatty acid, है ना, and lower content of the unsaturated fatty acid. तो ऑलरेडी जानते हो कि जो फैट ग्लोबुल साइज है बफेलो का, दे आर बड़ा होता है किससे, कॉम मिल्क से. So we can get the higher yield of, when we prepare the butter from the buffalo milk, then we are getting the higher yield of the butter. But when we prepare the butter from the cow milk, then definitely we can get the less yield in comparison to the buffalo milk. So similarly, the fatty acid profile is the profile of, in case of buffalo milk, is different from the cow milk. Similarly, when we prepare the butter from goat milk, then this fatty acid profile will change. So this all depends upon the type of milk which is used for cream manufacture, and that cream is actually used for the manufacture of butter. So these are the, देखो, already unsaturated fatty acid, these are the proportionate which are present in the butter, जैसे butyric acid, caproic acid, caprylic acid, capric acid, lauric acid, myristic acid, palmitic acid, stearic acid, है ना. तो जो सबसे ज्यादा है ना, वो जो है स्टीरिक एसिड का, वो सबसे ज्यादा है, सो सबसे ज्यादा मेल्टिंग पॉइंट और क्या कहता है, सॉलिडिफाइंग पॉइंट होता है इसी का, और सबसे कम किसका होता है, ब्यूटारिक एसिड का. उसी तरह से ये एसेंशियल फैटी एसिड दोनों जो है, these are actually polyunsaturated fatty, ये दोनों है तो पाया जाता है अंदर polyunsaturated fatty acid में. These aspects remain unchanged. हाँ, in case of cow milk और buffalo milk से अगर करोगे तो उसका प्रोफाइल अलग आएगा. उसी तरह से monounsaturated fatty acid में दो oleic acid, that is also makes the butter more nutritive in comparison to the other animal fat or vegetable fat. पर जो ये monounsaturated fatty acid है, ये भी है सो डिपेंड करता है किस तरह के मिल्क से तुमने बटर बनाया है. इसी तरह से अगर हम डिफरेंट बटर के डिफरेंट क्लासिफिकेशन की बात करें, है ना, डिफरेंट क्लासिफिकेशन की बात करें तो हम बटर को डिफरेंट कैटेगरी में ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ एसिडिटी ऑफ क्रीम, on the basis of salt content, or on the basis of use of the butter, or also we can classify the butter on the basis of the practice which is actually used for the manufacturing of butter. So these different categories we are actually defined, classified for the butter. Suppose first of all we classified the butter on the basis of cream used for butter making. We have number one, sweet cream butter. Sweet cream butter is completely different from sour cream butter. When we measuring the acidity of sweet cream butter, definitely the pH of that butter is more than or equal to 6.4. Whereas in case of sour cream butter, the pH is generally found in the either equal to or less than 5.1. So the shelf life of sour cream butter is relatively less in comparison to sweet cream butters. So that is why we are actually use the utilization of cream by different methods. So only 10 minutes left as per Zoom indicating. तो mild acidic butter, Mild stick butter, the pH of that butter will be in the range of 5.2 to 6.3. So these are the butters which are actually depends upon the type of raw material. That means what is the acidity of cream for used for the manufacture of butter. So these are the on the basis of number one. Number two, classification on the basis of salt contents. So one is salted butter, another one is unsalted butters. Salted butters, they are containing salt content, but not more than 3% of the weight of the butter. Similarly, the unsalted butter, that means containing no any salt, that is white butter. White butter, we are not adding any salt. Generally salt is added with the table butter, and that is not it should be not more than 3% by weight as per regulation of BIS or as per as per standards of FSSI. Another one is on the basis of use of the butter as recommended, as followed by Bureau of Indian Standard, that is BIS. One is table butter, another one is white butters. So we have already discussed table butter. They are containing 80% of minimum fat percentage, 80%. Whereas in case of white butter, the fat content is 82%. Similarly, other aspects we have discussed. So number 4, classification based on the practices, based on the manufacturing practice used for butter making. So इसमें क्या है कि number 1, pasteurized cream butter and pasteurized table butter. That means the pasteurized cream is actually used for the butter manufacturers. Similarly, desi butters. So desi butter is also known as cooking butter. So we have already discussed the difference between the table butter and desi butter, or we can say butter and desi butter. Now when we see the different composition of the butter as such, so the fat percentage generally found in the range of 80 to 83%. So either it is made by Punjab milk fermentation, or by Comfort, or made by Trimul. There's any agency, Parag, whatever agency Saras do, they must maintain the fat percentage in the range of not less than the as per regulation, not less than 80%. So the butter fat content should be 80 to 83%, and the moisture content should be 15.5 to 16%, and the salt content should be in the range of 0 to 3%. So and the curd content which remain present in the butter, but it should be generally found in the range of 1 to 1.5%. So these are the different composition, major composition, which is actually when we analyze the butter with different aspects, then generally we can find this range. These are the composition of the butters. So now thank you very much. Now you can ask any question with respect to this chapter, or if you have any query also in what we can say numericals of the as given to you, and I will now give you the numerical for utilization of cream, and I will already solve the numericals, and you can go through that numericals. If you are not understand, then we can discuss through this mode also. So have you any query, Prasanjit, Arvind?
So what is difference between salted and unsalted butter?
I have already now I have already told you that table butter is generally added with salt, common salt. That is generally NaCl is used at the rate of 3%. And we have already what is the purpose of addition of salt? That is used as a flavor, improve the flavor of the butter, or salt is also used Salt is also used to check the undesirable microorganisms so that we can improve the keeping quality of the butter. So table butter containing better shelf life in comparison to desi butter. देसी बटर को देखो, मक्खन जिसको कहते हैं, उसमें जो फैट कंटेंट है वो 76% होता है और उसमें किसी तरह का साल्ट रिकमेंड नहीं है ना। उसी तरह से अगर हम जैसे BIS ने हमारा लेकिन क्या किया है, BIS ने 2 तरह का दिया है अलग से। ब्यूरो ऑफ इंडियन स्टैंडर्ड जो है, दे आर एक्चुअली डेफिनेटली ओबे द रेगुलेशन ऑफ द FSSAI। FSSAI का तो रेगुलेशन मानना ही मानना है, बट BIS फॉर क्वालिटी कंटेंट के लिए जाना जाता है। तो BIS FSSAI में जो स्टैंडर्ड है उससे ज्यादा भी जा सकता है, उससे ज्यादा हायर एस्पेक्ट में जा सकता है। तो इसलिए जो है मिल्क फैट 82% है। ठीक है ना, बात समझ गए? हाँ, और बोलो, और क्या पूछना है?
सर माइल्डी और
सर साल्ट का यूज नहीं कर सकते हैं मतलब बटर को, मतलब प्रिजर्वेशन के लिए?
तो देखो, बटर के प्रिजर्वेशन के लिए अगर देखो, हमें तो ध्यान रखना है ना, एनी प्रोडक्ट इज एक्चुअली डिपेंड्स अपॉन द कंज्यूमर एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी। अगर हमारा कंज्यूमर, तुम जरा सा साल्ट हो जाता है ज्यादा, तुम एक्सेप्ट करते हो? डेफिनेटली साल्ट अगर हम ज्यादा ऐड करेंगे तो डेफिनेटली वी कैन कीप द बटर फॉर ए लॉन्गर ड्यूरेशन ऑफ टाइम। ज्यादा समय तक हम उसको खराब होने से बचा भी सकते हैं, लेकिन एट द सेम टाइम दे आर एक्चुअली द सेंसरी क्वालिटी ऑफ बटर विल बी अफेक्टेड। सो दैट इज व्हाई देखते हो देसी बटर जो हम लोग खाते हैं मक्खन, उसका टेस्ट है ना, और तुम टेबल बटर खाते हो तो ऑलवेज वी कैन प्रेफर मक्खन। हवा हुआ जाओगे हरियाणा, जब जाओगे दिल्ली से पंजाब की ओर, तो डिफरेंट ढाबा मिलता है। तो जनरली हमें भी मौका मिला है उस ढाबा में खाने का, तो दे आर ऑलवेज यूज मक्खन, नॉट टेबल बटर, है ना। तो उसका टेस्ट जो खाओगे और तुम गांव में जो खाते हो मक्खन, दैट इज ऑलमोस्ट सेम। ठीक है अरविंद?
यस सर।
हाँ, कोई क्वेरी है? इशू?
सर माइल्डी और सावर क्रीम में क्या डिफरेंस है?
हाँ ठीक है, ये तो ऑलरेडी हम तुमको बता चुके हैं, लेकिन फिर से बता रहा हूँ। जो डिफरेंट कैटेगरी हम लोग ने बताया था कि डिफरेंट कैटेगरी है, उसी के अंतर्गत जो है माइल्ड एसिडिक बटर है ना, इसमें जो आता है ये बीच के रेंज का होता है। अगर हम स्वीट रहता है क्रीम बटर, वो क्या होता है कि क्रीम वैसे क्रीम से बनाया जाता है जो कि फ्रेश क्रीम है ना, और उसका जो स्वीट क्रीम बटर का जो pH होता है वो मोर देन 6.4 होता है, मतलब 6.4, मोर देन 6.4। और ये लेकिन सावर क्रीम का जो होता है वो pH 5.1 होता है, दैट मींस एसिडिक होता है। सावर क्रीम बटर जो है वो एसिडिक होता है, और माइल्डिक एसिडिक बटर होता है वो स्लाइट हैसो एसिडिक होता है, स्लाइट एसिडिक। सपोज यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग butter और you are keeping the butter for short period of time, so we can हमने बताया था ना कि different न्यूट्रिशन ऑफ जो क्रीम करते हैं, तो डबल स्टेज न्यूट्रिशन ऑफ क्रीम इज जनरली हम लोग अडॉप्ट करते हैं। तो उसमें हम देखते हैं कि हमको कहाँ तक ले जाना है उसकी एसिडिटी। तो अगर हमको माइल्ड एसिडिक बटर चाहिए तो हम लोग ऐसो अगर फ्रेश क्रीम जो स्लाइट एसिडिक उससे बनाएंगे तो माइल्ड एसिडिक बटर हमें प्राप्त होगा। ठीक है, और सावर क्रीम का पीएच जैसा बताया मैंने, उसका पीएच कम होगा, माने एसिडिक ज्यादा होगा, है ना, वो ज्यादा एसिडिक होगा। और स्वीट क्रीम बटर में एसिडिटी है मतलब ज्यादा का मतलब यहाँ पे कम, है ना। स्वीट क्रीम में बटर का जो मेजर करोगे लैक्टिक एसिड का में, तो उसमें कम आएगा। सावर क्रीम में मेजर करोगे तो लैक्टिक एसिड में ज्यादा आएगा। और पीएच जो है, पीएच और एसिडिटी क्या है, इनवर्सली प्रोपोर्शनल है। अगर एसिडिटी ज्यादा होगा तो पीएच कम होगा, पीएच कम होगा तो एसिडिटी ज्यादा होगा। ठीक है, हाँ और कुछ इशू?
सर स्टार्टर कल्चर जो है सब टाइप के बटर में ऐड किया जाएगा?
देखो अभी हम इसको तो डिटेल में पढ़ाएंगे। स्टार्टर कल्चर जो है, जैसे राइपनिंग ऑफ क्रीम, दैट इज वन ऑफ द मेथड, वन ऑफ द माने स्टेप फॉर मैन्युफैक्चर ऑफ बटर। तो उसमें हम लोग क्या करते हैं जनरली, स्टार्टर कल्चर, दैट मींस द कल्चर इज एक्चुअली यूज्ड फॉर, है ना, इंड्यूसिंग फ्लेवर इनटू द फ्लेवर प्रोड्यूसिंग सब्सटेंस जो है उसमें हमारा प्रोड्यूस